Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's Newsstand, and this is a video I've been thinking about doing for a while. Last month on Netflix, they released Umbrella Academy, which was originally a Dark Horse comic written by Gerard Way, and the artist was Gabriel Ba. And this was one of those shows. So I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but when it comes to TV, this was one of those shows that were actually so worth it. Like, this was Gotham good. And I don't compare a whole lot to that because that's my absolute favorite show, which could make a lot of you just click out of it right away because I know a lot of people hate that show. But okay, so what basically happens, and I'm sure for the most part you realize the concept, is at the beginning of the day, none of these women were pregnant and they had babies within, moments. Well, the main scientist in this, he was like a wealthy entrepreneur. He was Sir Reginald Hargreaves. And he went and he was able to basically buy 7 children from these people. And now there is other children out there. We do see an instance of that. And there will be mild spoilers. I'm not going to talk about too much, or try to focus on the characters instead. But there are going to be things that are unavoidable. He buys these 7 children and he wants to know, just exactly what he can make them and what he can mold them into, because they do possess these powers. So with that being said, we start with number 1, who is Luther, basically nicknamed Space Boy. And that was because he was on the moon for 4 years. And we will find out why later on, and I'm not going to talk about that. But he is basically the strength. He is your brute of the 7. And there is an incident that happens that he does end up getting this almost ape-like body. He's absolutely massive. And that's not through his whole life. That just happens later on. But he is their leadership role. He basically gave up everything in his life, whether it was, having a family or having a girlfriend or having a life outside of the Umbrella Academy. He gave it all up to be number 1, and he did. And he was a really good character. He was not my favorite, but we do kind of see him go through some of his own turmoils. But for the most part, you see him basically as the leadership role. You see him as that planner. You see him as somebody that can lead a team. And then we go to number 2, who's Diego. And Diego's a hot mess, but he's a really good character, and I feel like he was kind of underutilized. He basically can curve any object. He has a specialty with knives and can throw them literally around the corner and still hit you. He, when he was younger, we see he's very close with his mother. And we see why, because when he was younger, he had a stutter, and she would help him kind of get through those moments. Tell him, picture the word in your mind, and you'll be able to say that. And that relationship plays a lot in the probably last half of the season. But he was one of those characters that I really enjoyed his character, and I felt like it wasn't used enough. Now, my absolute favorite characters were the next 2, which was Alison. She also had sort of a relationship with Luther. They were best friends growing up. They were more than friends. They definitely had that deep love connection that you see in these kind of things. They had that. And the actress's name was Emily Raver Lampman, and she played this role so well. And basically her power is too cool. She basically said, all she had to do was look at you and say, "I heard a rumor." And whatever the next sentence was, you did it. It was a mind play game, but it worked very well. But yet she ended up abusing it. So she does give that power up for a while. She used it to get roles. She was a celebrity by the point that we reach in the show. She was a celebrity. She got it for that. She used it too. She has a young daughter. She uses that, I had a rumor that you were really sleeping. She used these kind of things when she should not have. And she realized that, so she stopped using it. She also has a very good relationship with Vanya, which is number 7. I'll talk about that in a minute. But my other favorite character was Klaus. And I think just because his character was very, very different. He was kind of a seance master. He could conjure the dead, but only when he was sober. And he wasn't sober very often. He he was the junkie of the group, but he was, like I said, he was super charismatic. He was very funny. He was very relatable. He went through a whole lot, and he was able to still keep you laughing. And even when, you know, if he was dope sick or anything, he still kept the team laughing. But unfortunately, the ability to, you know, conjure the dead kind of messed with his head, and that's why he did not stay sober, because he would be able to see dead people all the time, and he had a fear of this, and it kind of, you know, went over his head. He kind of just couldn't deal with it anymore. But he was able to, you know, kind of conjure his brother, who does pass away, Ben, who is number 6. He kind of is like his buddy at this point, and is almost like his conscience. He almost helps him be a better person. And he is another one that they have a really good love story with. They have a really good love story, and he does a time jump, which is not really a spoiler. But he falls in love in Vietnam with a man named Dave. And it's one of those just absolutely perfect romances that, you know, most people don't experience, and he did. So he's trying to get sober to see Dave again, and it's a really good storyline. Now the main, not the main character, but number 5, who is literally just called number 5, he was a time hopper. He could also teleport within real time. So you would see, all of this comes down to him, because at the point where we meet him, he's a 58-year-old man inside a 12-year-old body who's already gone through this apocalypse. And this is essentially this impending doom that they're trying to prevent. And he is the one who knows about it because he lived it. He, in the beginning, accidentally did a time skip where he basically lived in that life with nobody else besides himself for, 46 years by himself. So we get to see his insight on it, but you also get to see this grown-ass man coming through this 12-year-old body, and they do a really good job of showing that. And like I said, number 6 was Ben, and he's dead, and he died very young. But you get to see him, he was like, almost like had Kraken powers. He would use this tentacles through him to, you know, kill or to do what he had to do, and it was very weird, but we didn't see that a whole lot, maybe once, twice. But we see his relationship more with Klaus, you know, that brotherly relationship that, you know, like I said, it's almost like his conscience. He almost keeps him in line, almost. And sometimes he even does, so I don't know. He was a good character, another underutilized one. And so that leads us with Vanya, who is number 7. And she's the normal one, so to speak. She is well sedated, and you will find out why. She is, I forget what her real name is. Ellen Page, who I don't really care for the girl, but honestly, in this show, you were able to look past that. You were able to see, you know, her as a character instead of as Ellen Page, this insufferable lady who yells at Chris Pratt for no reason. But you were able to get her as a character, and I liked that about her. I mean, she is a talented actress, but she definitely is. Oh, this is so hard to talk about without completely spoiling it. She's the one you need to keep an eye out for, and that's all I'm gonna say. There's really not too much to say about her without completely spoiling it. There is other side actors, and there's not a whole lot because the story does focus around these main 7. But we see like Cha-Cha and Hazel, which are, they're basically, the commission is the group of people that keep time in how it should be. So they are hired to kill number 5, and we see that relationship, that kind of partner relationship between the two. And we see Hazel fall in love with Agnes, who... And I can't wrap my head around it because he's like 40 and she's like 80. It's just a very, very odd relationship. But you get used to it, I suppose. I don't know. We see the mom. Her name is Grace. And she's like, you know, she's super mom. And that's because she's a robot. But she still is that wonderful, like, perfect mother figure. And you see that a lot with Diego. She helps him through a lot. So I liked her as a character. We see Pogo, who is a monkey. And, but he is like the wise old man in it. Because we don't have a whole lot of Reginald, but we have Pogo here, who kind of guides these young kids through just exactly what they need to do to stop this impending apocalypse. And he does a really good job with it. So the last character we really see is Leonard, who ends up being Harold. And that gets explained as you watched it. But he ends up being Vanya's love interest. And kind of, not really, he's a user. And he, spoiler alert, is one of these children that were born the same day and in the same circumstance, but he was not bought by Reginald. So he thinks, you know, he's special and he has a really bad childhood. With that being said, he's using Vanya at this point because he knows her secrets and he wants to make her into this basic bomb. And so this leaves off on a huge spoiler, or huge cliffhanger, and kind of almost undoes so much. But even with everything that you see throughout this, even with it all going back and forth and all these time hops, stuff being undone and redone, this was one of those shows that should be watched. And I'm not just saying that because it's a comic book show. I'm not just saying that because it is one of one good comic. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying it because it has a really good plot, has a lot of good side plots when it comes to family or love, or to relationships with your brothers or sister, to relationships with your fathers, different things you can work out. Even like with Alison, you know, with her daughter, you see a lot of good relationship built here. So I definitely think you guys should check it out. It is on Netflix right now. I literally binged that shit. It is so good. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.